Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tarkov. I'm the EarLegAthlete here with,
Hey, Dizzle.
and today we're going duck hunting while BSG attempts to fix the shoreline spawns. Let's get right to it. So, like we said, we are being spoon fed some information through Twitter as usual, kind of pointing towards what may be the next upcoming event. We know that a while back, Nikita had asked about like what games would you want to see Escape from Tarkov collaborate with, if any at all. And I know a lot of people had threw out some really cool suggestions. I think a lot of us kind of, at least those of us that have been following around for a while, when he said that, my first thought was Escape from Duckov because of the collab that he had done with the short a while back, and then it just seemed kind of right. But it seems like that's probably what's happening, especially with this new code. Escape from Duckov just makes sense too. The
It
BSG crew
does.
loves it. You know what I mean? They all
Yeah.
love it. They've all posted about it and everything else.
Well, it's a good story too because it's a small dev who took Battle State's game and made another game out of it, but didn't do it like in a negative
Ripping it
way. You know what I
off
mean? Like
or
some,
anything crazy,
yeah,
yeah.
you can, yeah, and
They
I
took the
just I
idea
love the
and
fact
ran
that
with it and put their own spin on it.
yeah, Nikita's shown support for them like from the start, and it's just really cool to see. And the game got big. It got huge on Steam. Like it
Absolutely.
was one of the top sellers. Like so the fact that BSG didn't come out and like, oh well, you didn't ask to use this, or we want, our name taken out of that, all of our stuff that you took. Like it just shows you like the kind of devs that they are, and I appreciate that.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because it's the opposite of what people say about them.
Exactly. Which is pretty much the entirety of the internet when it comes to BSG, a large
Yeah,
majority of the people that we see, because like let's be honest, a lot of our time is spent on Twitter. That's where they post their news, that's where they post their new shorts or anything like that. So it's bound to happen. Of course, we're going to see a lot of the negativity that way. We know the majority of the player base, though, for the most part, seems like they're pretty into everything BSG does. But just
yeah,
for whatever reason, the Twitter side, the Reddit side, the YouTube side, even sometimes just gets very hateful. And that's just, it is what it is. But yeah, so we are looking at a new code, hints at a new event. The code falls in line with that. I'll go ahead and pull up the code stuff right now. So here's the new code, all capital letters, Wild Hunt. And what it gives you is 2 Koruns, 40 rounds of AP-20, 2 double barrel shotguns, 2 6SH-112S-S's, and 2 Ushanka ear flap hats.
yeah. Worth it for
The
the armor alone.
image that we were shown was this right here, which just all but confirmed we're going duck hunting, right? We assume the collab is Escape from Duckov. We assume we're going to be doing some duck hunting. Why name it Wild Hunt? Why post the picture with the duck targets? Well, it's just all points right to it. And
Yeah,
then not only that, we have Nikita also saying, "I love ducks. What can I say?" with a bashful like smiley face. And then some asshole posts, but nobody likes you. And then it's just nothing but, dude, we fucking love you. Don't listen to this shit. You know what I mean? I was even like, I fucking love you, brother. So again, Twitter just being Twitter. I'm glad Nikita knows how to handle it much better than he used to. It seems like it doesn't really bother him as much. But yeah, anyways, I think this is going to be pretty cool. If we're going to be out here potentially hunting ducks and doing this, that, and the other, I don't know what kind of reward system it would be, or if we loot these ducks, or if it's just how many can you get killed, and every threshold you get a X kind of a reward. Is it, hey, skier, mechanic, peacekeeper, whoever it wants us to kill 50 ducks, and then after we do that, there's another task for killing 100 ducks or something. We don't have any idea what's actually taking place. We just know based off of all the context clues. They
right.
specifically say, will you come prepared to shoot birds or become the one being hunted? So potentially even these ducks are going to be pretty badass, maybe. We don't know. They could be boss
It
level type
could be
stuff, you know what I
drones.
mean? It could be drones.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Could be
actually
drones
a
that look
very
like
good point.
ducks. That's the first thing I thought when I seen or where you be the one that's being hunted. I'm like, well, what could be, like And I thought drones, okay, and Nikita's already talked about drones in the game.
Right.
Um,
And maybe,
but
skinning them as ducks is a way to just start it ties the collab to everything, and then it also lets them start to introduce them and see how the drones work in the game and, in live raid
right.
and stuff like that. So
But
that's
could
a
be way off,
possibility.
might not have anything to do with it.
Well, again, that's just the thing with Tarkov, right? Anytime we get little bits of things, it's nothing wrong with speculating the craziest idea because they're typically cooking up something pretty wild.
Well, and I'm glad they're doing it like this because it's like when you do a collab, it gives you room to step outside of the norm. Like you don't have to just like stick to like realism Tarkov. You can kind of be a little crazy with it. Because it's excused because you're like, oh, you're doing a collab. So it's not a permanent change in the game. It's something, just to celebrate, the partnership. So it just gives them room to do things they wouldn't normally do. Um, and I'm excited for that because if you remember when Nikita even said that, like, who would you want to see us collab with? The Daisy Twitter account was like right there, like saying, "Hey, us," because that would be
Yeah,
an awesome collab. Like,
I think so. That's something
make
we've been asking
make
for
the
so
zombie
long.
event, yeah, make the zombie event like a collab with Daisy next time, and like
Use their
have
zombies
Daisy
and
rules.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
have like Daisy rules where it's like it's a one life. You got to loot stuff like around the map, and like it could be awesome. Like it could let Tarkov do some things that they couldn't just normally do without like a reason such as a collaboration.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And like I'm sure in everybody's head when you say Tarkov DayZ collab, you're thinking some, sprawling open world, potentially use a DayZ map and throw Tarkov players in it. That's so far out of a possibility for Tarkov.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would never be the collaboration that we would see. We would see, maybe some clothing options get added so we can look like DayZ characters. Some of the guns and sights may be added so we can, use the stuff from DayZ, and then probably zombies, right? Is my thought too. Is like if they
yeah,
collab with DayZ, it almost has to be zombies. Um, I just can't think of anything else they could add outside of like specific items, like change cans of beans to the Heinz beans, or the
yeah.
Tashankas to
They
beans and stuff like that. There are things they could
and like I said,
do, but
well, they could. I mean, it would probably be on a small scale, but they could take a map and just make it to where you spawn in with nothing like you would in DayZ, and like spawn everybody by the coast, and like just make the map where there's guns laying around everywhere, and everyone has to like run around and try to get food and guns, and like they could do that just on a smaller scale, not as big as DayZ, but use Tarkov's existing map for it and just make it like a 5-player server.
put everybody
Like
on
if they
woods.
do, yeah, if they do stuff like that, that would be like awesome. Like
That would be cool.
spawn
That would
everybody on
be
the
a really
coast.
good way to handle a collab like that.
Yeah,
Everybody spawns on woods. Everybody spawns, somewhere from like outskirts, RUAF, something like that, or even on the coast up at the riverside potentially. Give us some sort of objective at the sawmill with a couple puzzles we can solve potentially. Like there's a lot of stuff you could do to interact with that. Have
yeah,
Daisy
and that's the
zombies
cool
running
thing is
around and stuff like. It would be cool.
like like I said, it just gives them having collabs gives them a reason to switch things up and do things that they can't just do, without a reason.
Right. Whatever it is that they do, I hope that it's not on Shoreline. At least not right now, right?
Yeah.
Things are looking rough over there with an updated spawn system. You've got players spawning outside of the map in like the not in the what do they call them?
Like the terminal area, like it's by the bear machine gun spawns. Like
Restricted zones. That's what they're called. Restricted zones. You got players
yeah,
spawning in
yeah,
restricted zones. You got players spawning right on top of existing spawns. Excuse me, because that is something that they did, and doesn't make a lot of sense. Even just like when we were sitting here talking about it, before we started the podcast, we kind of go over the topics and everything, and it was just talking about how they left the original spawns in the game and then added the new spawns over top of that, not considering the fact that players could still spawn in the old spawn and then spawn immediately on top of each other with the new spawn. So that's just
Well,
You all
and
know
like I
it
said, the worst.
already now too. We love pretty much everything BSG does. We love the game. We love the choices they make. They usually are on par with things. This one just doesn't make sense. This is just another one of those weird ones.
No.
Like, were you just rushing it out for no reason? Were you being lazy about it? Did you not think of it? Like, what is the thought process
Well,
there to make you leave in original spawns when you're adding new
it's
spawns?
like
It just
even the original spawns aren't as bad if they're trying to make it whereas like they're putting new spawns in so people can spawn farther apart, and it makes sense to like leave the original ones in, just not use
sure.
them. Like it
Don't try to
the
populate all of
biggest
them. Yeah.
right, the biggest part that doesn't make sense is spawning people in areas that they're not allowed to be in and them dying immediately off rip. Like like people said, I was on, Psycho Sniper mission. I was on 3 of 5 and you spawned me in and I immediately died to a machine gunner. That's the kind of stuff that just there's no excuse for that as a dev. You know
Right.
where the restricted zones are. You
Yeah.
know where the terminal machine guns are. Like you know that. So why would you even flirt with putting someone in that area? Like it just does not make sense.
It makes zero sense. It's a weird choice. Maybe they just had, randomly generated some spots and said, let's try that out and just didn't look at it close enough. I don't know. Maybe they weren't thinking, post 1.0 stuff where that's an open area to get shot from.
It's just it's a weird mistake
It's a
coming
very weird
from a dev
mistake.
group that plays the game. Like they all play the game. They
For
know
sure.
where these things are now. Like and
Well,
1.0 was such a big thing, like having
right.
that
There's no
area
excuse
sealed
for it.
off. Yeah, everyone should know that. Like and it should go through enough people when a change like that's made that someone should catch it. Like it shouldn't be something that just gets put in without a few eyes on it. And I just there has to be something there because I don't see him like just out of negligence, just like being okay, we don't care, let's just throw him here.
Right. Right.
Like
Not when you've put
I
so much effort
don't
into so
see
much other
him
stuff. It just doesn't add up.
right. And so I feel like there has to be a part of it that because in my mind I'm thinking you choose the spawn, you put it on the map, now it's in the game. Maybe there's a different process there, and I just don't understand exactly how it's done. But it
But
seems
still,
like
even if
y-
it's some
well,
randomized process that they're kind of disengaged from, you would think maybe not throw it on ETS, right? Sure. But maybe internal testing should have been applied, if not had been
yeah,
applied. Like make
exactly.
sure you hit every potential spawn point because there's no way in hell that they just don't see it, right? Like it's just not possible. They know where those spawns are
Well,
put. They have to.
here's the crazier part is I think we are the testers. I think this is the test.
Well, yeah,
Is
yeah. I just think that it would make
unfortunately
sense to just
throw it
have
in the game,
somebody
let the people
double
test it.
check and make sure the spawns work. Because you don't
You would
want
think,
people spawning in places like that. You know how pissed off I'd be if I loaded in for a terminal run and I spawned right there on top of terminal getting shot at? You know what I mean? I'd be furious because that's a lot of fucking ammo lost. That's a lot of good shit lost, you
yeah,
know?
a lot of
Um,
time, effort. Like it's just all that comes into play. Well, and when it comes to their responses to this, which we'll get into, like that's what makes me think, okay, these aren't done. These are them just still messing with it.
yeah, let's go ahead and
It
take a
just
look at some
sucks
of
that
those, right?
we're the ones who have to test it. You know
Suffer
what I
from
mean?
it. It's just weird to make your
Yeah,
player base suffer through something that you just didn't want to test. I just that's what gets
yeah,
me too. It's like it's either A, you said, I'll let them test it, it'll be fine, without even looking where the spawn locations were, which is a horrible way to go about it, or B, you just didn't care enough to like look into it all. And either one of those are not
well,
great.
and I
Like
got
you
to
should
take
look
something
and see
back
where those
because I
spawns
said,
are.
well, and I said maybe it's not as simple as just finding a spot and making that. No, that is how it
It is.
works. I don't care. That's
Yeah,
how
you inject
spawns
a spawn
work.
location. Yeah.
They pick what they want. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but after
Well,
I
I
thought
was too
about it, I
there
was
for
like,
a
no, that
moment, but
doesn't
it's
make
just
sense.
and if that's the case, you're gonna have somebody go through and check every single spawn and make sure
Yeah.
A, they work, B, they're where they're supposed to be. Just ignore all of that, it seems like it this isn't gonna drive me away from the game by any means, but it is one of those
No,
things that's
absolutely not.
frustrating to see because of it's a company that's been through all this. They know how in the
Yeah.
public eye they are. They know how this community gets. You need to execute these kind of maneuvers like almost flawlessly. And if it takes an extra week so you can look through everything and have it all tested multiple times, make sure you hit all the spawns, make sure everything's how it's supposed to be, I think that's a better situation than introducing something like this and then just making us players check it. And that just feels so opposite of how things typically go. No ETS, like that's your test server. That's where things get tested. Test it there.
Right.
Okay, so you're
Well, and
not
then
doing
when
that. So you test it in house. Like you can't just release these things. You just can't.
well, it just it it's we give them props when they do great stuff, and it's like we're fair about things. So when they do bad stuff, it's just it's there's no excuse.
There's
For
not.
things like this,
It's
you
not like we're
gotta
like, oh,
fix
jumping
that.
ship or anything. It's just this is something that you
No,
can't
no, but
slack on.
we yeah, it's like the devs gotta know that they have one job when it comes to spawns, and that's letting the player get in the game and play the game. And if
Right.
you're spawning people in places where that's not possible, like all you gotta do is spawn them in an area where there's nothing around them and they're inside the, play
Parameters
area
of the
of the
map.
map.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. And
Well,
if you
and
can't even make sure for that, like that's just there's no excuse.
it's bad work. That's bad work.
Yeah,
All day, that's bad work.
yeah,
So let's consider something. Why did they change the shoreline spawns? Right? Do we know why?
right.
I think I know why. I'm
Well,
pretty sure I
yeah,
know why. It's because
because
they didn't like players spawning on top of each other, getting into fights instantly, rotating, 5 feet to your left and having a free shot. They didn't, they wanted it to be a little bit more random and sporadic. They wanted players to be able to spread out a little bit more, and
well, and let's
potentially
be
run into
honest,
each other a little more naturally.
the community was fed up with the shoreline spawns. Like I was seeing it
Yeah,
all
they
over the
were
place,
rough.
and it was on Tarkov.Community. There was all kinds of people there
Yeah,
saying that the shoreline spawns need fixed. So it's like it was supposed to be a good thing, like fixing the spawns, but it's turned
yeah.
into another thing by itself. And here's the other thing that we don't know. They may have went in and fixed it since then, since this
Right. This
happened.
is purely
But the
based
thing
off of
thing
what
is,
we've heard.
yeah, the thing is they're not saying it when they do it. Like they're not announcing it. When they did change the spawns, only thing that they said was there's a technical update. They didn't
Right.
say what they were doing. They didn't say what they had done. So it's
No.
like, who knows? They could have tried to rework it already and we just wouldn't know. So
And
it's one of those
here's
things where
a
it's like
potential
they've done they've done so good with communication and stuff. It's just
feels
one of
weird.
those things where they need to go back on this and either communicate, let us know what's happening, or get it right the first time before they throw it in game.
Do you think there's a chance of potentially having a shit ton of new spawns more so than what we've just seen? I don't think this is the case, but maybe. And maybe it's almost in a random scale. They've got like a line that could potentially spawn through here. I don't know. I'm trying to think of reasons why this would happen, and nothing really adds up. It all kind of amounts to carelessness, I think. And I don't want to say that because I can't really speak on what the devs did, do, are doing, have done. You know what I mean? We can't really, we don't know. This one instance of this new situation isn't great. It needs to be fixed, and it needs to be vocalized that it's fixed. But outside of that, like it's really hard to like know exactly what's happening,
Well,
especially when they're not communicating so well with this one.
um, there's a few different people who've posted the new spawns. There's maps for them. Very Bad Scav has images of the old and the new, and Logical Solutions, always goes and checks the actual the files to see what's changed inside the actual game files and found,
Yeah.
the changes. And so there are maps showing the new spawn points. Um, so I don't know. Like I haven't went through all of it in detail to see exactly like what's changed and what hasn't, but it looks like there's a lot less spawns now.
Yeah, they removed the Path to Lighthouse spawns. The one that spawns high side of Path to Lighthouse, like right on top of Path to Lighthouse, and then they removed the one that is uh the easiest farming one. If you spawn Path to Lighthouse, it's the one where you turn to the right and you just wait. They either come up your hill or they walk past the hill, and you just take them out there. It's very simple. They removed those two for sure. And then it looked like they had taken out a couple other ones, which apparently aren't actually gone. At least weren't actually gone. I know that they added one behind Resort pretty close. They added one over by like the car area, I think. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. We could just pull up.
I was gonna say if you go to these images, man, those old spawns were awful.
Yeah, they were tight. They were
Like,
right on top of each other.
yeah, they were bad. And then if you mix the old and the new together, it's just
Cluster.
I don't even know what that is. Yeah. But yeah, it's spawns have been a thing that for whatever reason, it just seems like they can't quite get it right. Um, we talked about last week how we've had the issue with spawning in the same area every time you load into a map also. So there's something also with the spawn logic that is off because you shouldn't have to spawn in the same with you can look at this map and see how many spawns there are. You should not be spawning in the same spot every time. So there's something broken
No, there
there
was
also.
already something going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'll have to look later for one of them new maps or have you send it over or something. I can't find it on the fly. But yeah, so what we were getting ready to get into as we were talking about these Shoreline spawns was Daniel, aka Applezor. He's a lead community manager and coordinator of Sherpas and emissaries for Battlestate Games, Tarkov, and Tarkov Arena. So he's pretty involved. He does have, his hand in whatever's happening there. Some people had made some posts. Double Destroyer, Shoreline spawns reworked finally? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Just spawned behind admin. How about each spawn an equal distance? Blah blah blah. That's almost exactly how it was prior, which created a lot of situations where fights occurred really early into the raid. So you can already see with this first response, they're looking into ways of making these fights roll out in a natural way. As you progress through the map, you're running into a player here or there. Not, oh, I spawned in. Did I get an optimal spawn to turn left or turn right? Like, who am I running down first is what it was. It was as
Right.
simple as if you spawn in this location, you go this way, you've got one fight here, you push to the next spawn, not necessarily the next spawn, but the next optimal location for that spawn. Like Weather Station, when you spawn in front of Weather Station, you run up the side of the hill and you look back towards Blue Fence. After you check Blue Fence, you check Road to Customs. After you check Road to Customs, you rush over and you start looking towards Radio Tower, right? Like there's very specific places that you look based off your spawn to take advantage of those players who may not know about these things and are just walking through the wood line or walking up this one route. So it was a major issue. The Path to Lighthouse side, the Weather Station side, even spawning down by tunnel, there were a couple that you could like watch out for pretty realistically or pretty easily, pretty consistently. It wasn't good. It was not good. And we here at least have always been on the side of we like for these fights. Granted, I've been kind of scummy about it, having all these tasks that require me to get kills on these certain maps. I was a little bit scummy and I was like using this to a degree, and I'm kind of glad I was, just because it started to bring it more to my attention, because I knew it was a thing, but I didn't realize how bad it was, right? Playing like that changes your perspective on it because you instantly start to see just how easy it is to get these early fights. And most of the time, these players aren't ready for these early fights. They are expecting to be able to push up to cottage, push up closer to resort, maybe even make it all the way out of their spawn before they have to interact with somebody. And when you're the one taking advantage of it, you get really good lines on these players that you shouldn't have lines on. So you can already see, they're like, well, that's what it was already doing. What you just described, the guy before, that's not what we want to do. And then the next comment says something, I think you need to make some quick changes. He says, changes will be made. And then some other guy says, so like a beta, question mark, question mark, question mark. He responds with, let's say you were coming home hungry. You can cook good pasta for about 30 minutes or get instant ramen within 5 minutes. Nothing wrong with both options, but the craving is there. It could go through ETS, which would take more time and considering demand, or take more time and considering demand for the change may not be worth it. And then he responds again, I wouldn't call it a final rework, just seeing what can be potentially changed. Followed up with, will some other maps get reworks as well? There is no definitive answer, but we are looking into what can also be done. So just those responses there, while granted, if you don't know to go look for Applezor and, happen upon these posts or whatever it may be to bring you to his, make you aware of his posting and stuff and his involvement, you're not going to see this. This should have been taken care of by like official BSG or like actual BSG Twitter account or Nikita Twitter or something that gets a lot more eyes on it, because there is a good bit of information there, even as kind of cryptic as it is. We've got, will there be some other maps getting reworked? Yeah, possibly. It sounds like it. There are other maps that definitely need this kind of rework. Was this the plan? No. Was it something they did trying to reach demand because players are upset about the Shoreline situation? Yes. And then, they are working on it. It's not something that they did and set in stone right away. It's something that they wanted to get in raid and just start testing and seeing how players respond to it, see how the players move with it, see how the fights evolve. But the problem is that some of those spawns are just atrocious, right? And it's just not.
Yeah.
Like, in theory, what they're doing is great. This could potentially turn into something very good for spawns in general for all the maps. The way it's being executed is the issue. Overall, I think
Well, that's the thing. I'm sure
we're
they'll
on to
get it
something
right
great.
eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're on to
Yeah.
something solid for sure, without a doubt. I just wish that players didn't have to go through the suffering side of it, especially when it's not
Right.
entirely their fault for that suffering. Like, you can't control where
Exactly,
you
yeah.
spawn. You can't control where they
No.
put you. You can't control what happens in that first 5 seconds of the raid if somebody's able to see you or not. That's on them to make sure they've curated and crafted a map and raid experience that lets these things feel natural, let these things feel like they've evolved through a raid like they should. Like, you've been able to make it 15, 20 minutes into a raid before you're just getting absolutely, annihilated from somewhere you can't see. Maybe not even 15, 20 minutes. If I could walk 5 minutes sometimes, I'd be happy. It's just, not ideal. It's not great. A little bit of upset people about it, and rightfully so, in my opinion. I think this is just one of those things that you gotta fix. You gotta fix quick. Or at least, like, if you can't fix it and change all the spawns, take out those restricted zone spawns. That would make people pretty happy. And if you're going to test new spawns, remove the old spawns. I think those two things right there would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to see images, I retweeted it on our account of
Perfect.
image 1 is the old spawns, image 2 is the new spawns, and image 3 is Very Bad Scav's own map where he said it'd be cool if we had spawns like this, to where it was kind of like sometimes you get a great spawn, sometimes you get an awful spawn, like kind of more of a hit and miss type thing.
Yeah. So if you look here, we have left side, right side. It's all either going to be Road to Customs, Weather Station, Radio Tower, or it's all going to be Tunnel, Villages, Path to Lighthouse. And you can already see how this breaks down very easily. The Path to Lighthouse guy has a great line on these two here, if they're there. The guy that spawns Topside Village, Highside Tunnel, you just go up, or you go up in this hillside here, and you're catching people rotating through. If you spawn Weather Station, you have eyes on potential Radio Station mover, Road to Customs mover, the guy that could just randomly spawn out in the wood line. There's quite a few. There's the Blue Fence guy. So it's really easy to take advantage of specific spawns. Sure, not every single spawn has these lines that you can set up on and be ready for people to move in, but being aware, knowing I spawned on the right side of the map, at least a few other people have spawned pretty close by. It sets you up to know that you're fighting in the first couple minutes. It's just, you can see it on the map. There's so much wasted space that could be utilized. What, just because we don't want players spawning at resort? Sure, put a little circle around resort. Nobody can spawn within X meters, and place them around the map in other ways. There's so many positions that you could put players in that gives them time to just rotate around the map. So that was the original spawns. Here is what they implemented, which I already like this 10 times better, but as you can already see, there are some major issues. Bottom right, that's the spawn we were talking about a moment ago, with being right on top of the USEC or RUAF guards, the terminal guards, sorry. And then another one is outside of the map right here on the right-hand side. We have two that are in restricted zone. Or wait, no, that's not restricted. None of those are restricted. Okay, so it's just the one restricted zone spawn then.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of those places that were marked, people weren't necessarily spawning where they should have. Also, was one of the problems where it shows one place on the actual information, but then when people were spawning in, they were spawning outside of the area that they were supposed to. So it's like they drew it up right in some instances. They just didn't get the actual game knowledge right somehow.
Well, and this just looks 100 times better. The Path to
It
Lighthouse
does. It's so
guy,
much more spread out.
yeah, like my big complaint here would be the Path to Lighthouse guy with the Village guy. Sunken Village guy, maybe not the most ideal, because Sunken Village you can't rotate away from. You have to go wide left or wide right to get out of it. So you're either pushing up towards the Path to Lighthouse guy, or you're pushing around to the other Village guy. So it can be a little tricky there still, but this does have a saving grace, which means you have two decisions at Path of Lighthouse. You can either turn left or you can turn right. You're going to get into a fight potentially either way. And that's assuming that you get a spawn on top of you. Like, there's still some pretty not okay spawn locations here, I think.
Yeah.
Assuming
absolutely.
that 10 players load into the raid, 12 players, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So realistically, if they don't populate certain sides of the map first and just let it randomly throw people in, realistically, if only 10 players spawn, you're pretty spread out. If they go and separate it by at least a couple spawn points each, you've got a nice wide spread to where you can actually spawn in, move around, get to your task location, do a couple things, and then, you know, maybe into that 10-minute mark, you're starting to hear shots, see players a little bit more, and you're starting to, that raid's evolving like it should, and it's kind of breaking down the way it should. And then here's the next map, which is what Very Bad Scav thinks it should be, and I like this immensely. Immensely, I like this. You have spawns that are a little close to resort. Sure, you could potentially push those back, but what you don't have are players spawning on the outskirts of the map right beside each other. Any of the spawns that could be populated here aren't necessarily going to be populated here. Again, if we just pick out 10 spawns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll take one over here, right here, 10. Like, those are very well spread out. They're in random places that can't just be ran down off an instant. You actually have to move to run into these spawns. I think this is well thought out enough to make enough sense. Because you got to think, too, you got a lot of terrain in here that breaks up a lot of the line of sight on a lot of these spawns. It would force players to move.
If you took a mix of this one plus what they did do with the new one, it's like if you took a mix of those, it would be almost perfect. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Because you can look at the one they did. Everybody is still on the outskirts of the map, almost.
Right,
everyone.
You still all spawn outside. Yeah,
and it's like, why not a couple of those on the outside that are right beside each other? Move
push
one of them
in
up into the middle of the map.
Yeah.
Who cares if someone's ahead of me?
Right.
Like,
if somebody spawns resort before me,
I would rather someone be ahead of me than right beside me.
Right. And it's random. I have a chance of getting that shoreline spawn or resort spawn. I have a chance of getting the power station spawn. I have a chance of getting that spawn. It's just, it's weird just to push everybody to the outskirts of the map.
Like,
right. Well, you have God spawn, and you have what I've been calling demigod spawn, right? It's just as close. You got to go through a different door to get to it, but it's pretty close. It's those two spawns, great. Outside of that, it changes the way I play customs because I didn't get the God spawns. All right, well, I'm going to take it a little bit slower. I'm still pushing dorms. I still want marked room, but I'm just going to take it a little bit slower. This feels
just because you get the God spawn doesn't
mean you're going to resort to dorms. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to marked room, and it doesn't mean that when you get there you're safe either. Like you were saying, right?
Right, because people are coming right behind you. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. You get a few seconds to get in there and push to top floor, unlock the door, and hopefully loot before people are already inside shooting. It can be hectic. We all know how dorms runs. And that's the same for resort. You're still going to have, like, even if I say I spawned right here behind admin basement and I push right into admin and start looting through computers and doing all this stuff, cool. Sure, I'm the one that got to loot there first, so if I hit a GPU, I get to shove it in my secure container. But outside of that, there are going to be gamers who pop SJ, pop trim it all, whatever, and just sprint. Right? Like, we know what's going to happen. We know for a fact players are going to be beating feet, getting to resort, trying to hit those lead X's, trying to hit this and that. And if you randomize the spawns, like Very Bad Scav has it broke down here, it makes it to where you never know if you're going to be close, if you're going to be far. With the current system, even with the updated current system, you still almost guarantee you're running to resort. Like, you have to sprint up there. With this, it's like, there's a chance that you spawn close enough to where you don't have to rush. You don't have to pop stims to get to resort first. Like, that would be crazy. You know, just like it changes the flow of the map. It changes the flow of the player rotations and everything. If this is what I had to work with for map theory, it would change so drastically. It would be almost impossible. We would cut this into 4 corners and just say, okay, these spawns up here, you know, could potentially rotate this way, sure, but like it would be way more in depth on like how these spawns rotate and how these spawns move, and it would almost become a point of like almost impossible to really solve it and call it cracked, right? Because if it's randomized and only, you know, you got 36 spawn points and only 12 of those spawn points can be consumed, you never know where anybody's actually going to be ever. And that's the idea. That's what we need. We need something that gives us randomness, that makes it to where it's not so straightforward. It doesn't ruin people's raids in the first 5 minutes. We just need random ass spawns.
Yeah, because the one thing that everyone's upset about is when you spawn right beside each other or you spawn right next to someone who can run up on you right as you're getting in. Those are the bad things. It's not the location. It's not, oh, someone got somewhere before I did. Like,
Right.
that might make someone mad, but what will make everyone mad is getting spawn killed. That's what
Exactly.
is the problem. Like,
Exactly.
trade-offs are worth it. Give us some closer spawns to get rid of the everyone spawning together. Like, it's worth it.
Decongest the maps a bit. And that's the thing too. Those exterior areas that we would spawn at would start to gain value because you don't have everybody and their brother spawning there. So now, maybe not Sunken Village because it doesn't have a lot anyways, but the village before cottages, that would actually be a prime loot location. That would get players moving around the entirety of the map because you're almost guaranteed one of these spots hasn't been hit yet. It really opens the door to not just randomize the spawns and let players have a little more relief off of initial rotation, but it opens up a lot of more looting for players that maybe don't want to go push resort to look for that one specific item. Maybe, if village hasn't been hit, there's a lot of houses, a lot of stuff that you can get out of there, a lot of good loot that you can pull from villages.
A lot
But
of
when
jackets, a lot of
everybody,
keys.
yeah, exactly. If everybody spawns there and it's nothing but fights off rip, the one guy that survives probably isn't even going to go loot through the village because he's full on everybody else's kits. So you're kind of,
Right.
when you push everything on top of itself, not only are you ruining raid experience for players who didn't get to leave their spawn or barely got to rotate out, and not only are you filling up that one juicer that won the fight, right? But now the maps that you've worked so hard to design and get the loot balance on, they're not getting looted correctly or even, nearly as much. You're waiting for scab players to come in and grab all your shit. It's just, it's a bad ecosystem. It's a bad ecosystem. And, while for the most part, we don't typically complain about it too much because it's something that we've just been kind of forced to evolve to, right? It's something that we've had to learn. It would change every single POI. It makes all those POIs valuable again. If I spawn in Path to Lighthouse and just nobody's near me, I would 100% go start looting village. Absolutely. Especially if I could justifiably say, okay, there's only 12 players. There's 15 to 25, 30 spawns, whatever. I haven't seen anybody move through here. I've been quiet. It's quiet. The next spawn that would be pushing up to me might come from roadside, might come from resort, might come from my left. You just, when you don't know, it just changes everything. And when you don't have congested areas that are filled with fighting until there's one person standing, you get to actually loot through those locations. You get to appreciate everything that's around there. And then players start to realize oh, there's actually good stuff here. I'm going to start farming this, it would just be a pretty big change to get randomness involved.
Well, and BSG can also up the loot on the outer locations to make them actually worth going to now.
That's also
And
true.
so, yeah, it makes the map just have a completely different play style now because all your hotspots don't have to be the middle. Like, the only reason that's the way it is right now is because everyone spawns on the outside. But if you start spawning people closer on the inside, you can put some great loot spots on the outside. And then, because someone spawns at resort, well, that don't mean they win the raid because there might be a great spawn point down on the pier, like
Right.
something really good that they put in the game. So it's like you can make it to where the map has worthy points on the outside too.
Like Weather Station, that place should be a gold mine. In my opinion, I
Yeah.
think Weather Station, pier, resort, obviously, cottages, yeah. And then you have all kinds of smaller POIs all the way around that map. You have farm, which does get used, but not too much, in my opinion. I don't think players go there as often. There's probably a few guys that know the value there.
I was gonna say, yeah, it is a hot spot for early
just-
game, especially because there's a ton of
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah, early raid for
tools
sure.
and
Toolkits and
food
things.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
But you could make that a way more interesting POI. You could put a Sanitar spawn there. You could spread things
That's
out a
what I was
little
gonna
bit.
say. Put a boss spawn there.
Yeah. If we had resort, pier, weather station, radio tower, power station, cottages, not sunken college, but village, and then you've got your little sniper scav area behind resort. You've got the cultist marked area with the tent there that could have some loot at it next to farm. You could actually populate your map with loot, and players would have a much better time just rotating around the map compared to, oh, we're on Shoreline, we kill a couple scavs as we push to resort, you know, like, and that's just that. That's it. It doesn't matter where I start on resort or on Shoreline, I'm pushing resort. Resort is the goal every single time.
Yeah.
That's where the loot's at. That's where the fights are. That's where everything evolves at. That's where it all breaks down at. So it's one of those things that I think wholeheartedly you would be able to expand the loot tables out to those further remote locations that players don't hit as often, because the players that are spawning there are actually going to have time and room to loot that stuff. It's just, I don't see many negatives in giving us random spawn points scattered all across the map instead of just putting us all in one spot. Which I think that's the consensus, right? I think that's what everybody thinks.
It would fix the spawn issues. It would almost make it a new map, because you'd have different POIs, like everyone's going to different places now for different things. Like you said, throw the boss on a couple different locations. Like, because right now the boss spawns in 3 spots that are really close to each other.
Yeah, Pier Resort
you got
Cottage.
the pier, all those are right there within, like, a 1 or 2 minute run of each other, pretty much.
Right.
So there's so much they could do that would not only fix the spawns, it would make the map feel brand new.
Yeah. And just think about like where fights would start breaking down at comparatively. You would hear random locations almost every single raid. I don't think that you would have the same fight over and over again. Hardly, like, not very often, I would imagine. Especially if they give more spawns than we have, and it's all really actually randomized to where you just don't know where you're going to end up, or at least like, okay, well, I'm either going to be left side or right side, depending on that, I think that would help so much for the fighting.
It sounds like we're asking a lot, but honestly, this is probably one of the easiest ways that they can remaster maps and make them feel fresh again. And
randomize spawn points, update the loot
spawn
pools.
points, and and boss locations. Those 3 right there are huge. Like, that completely changes the way a map plays.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's look at not just Shoreline, right? Let's look at customs. It's a tight, smaller map. We have Reshala at dorms, new gas, and fortress. If we randomize the spawns to where players can spawn on the internal side of the map, potentially spawn in the courtyard of dorms, spawn at fortress, spawn anywhere and everywhere on the map, just completely randomized. And then you say Reshala can be at those 3 locations, old gas and potentially checkpoint. And then if you unlock the scav checkpoint door so that we can loot inside there, throw a few PCs and filing cabinets, a couple jackets laying around, do the same for all these more remote locations on customs, and you have a completely different raid from what gets ran currently, right? Like, it would just drastically change the way the raids are played. You wouldn't have the same spawn rotations. You wouldn't have players knowing, if I spawn here, nobody else is close to this. If I spawn here, I'm the first one there. It would just drastically change everything. And then you not knowing exactly where the boss is sets up different angles on the boss. You know that there's good loot in all these places that the boss could be. There's good loot in every single area that could be there. Maybe not every raid, but potentially. So it's just one of those things, like, just adding boss spawns and giving us completely random locations, filter in some loot in other spots other than just the main POIs, and you've solved the problem.
Yeah.
And customs,
especially for maps like woods,
right?
The bigger maps that are more spread out, it's like those could use a lot of stuff, like Shoreline, woods, even streets, like just redoing some of the big spots on streets. There's just so much that they could do, like it's so much easier than adding a whole new map and completely design it from the ground up and taking all that time. It's pretty much doing the same thing, but with just switching things around on the existing maps. And I think hopefully that they, they're thinking about doing this.
A good look at it too is like what they did with interchange. Interchange flow is completely different from what it used to be. Sure, you still have your killer hunters. They always push your maul, whatever. We get in so many fights just rotating around the exterior of the map now because of those 2 camps that they added, right? They gave us a little bit more roaming room. They added 2 camps that actually have like bomb ass loot, and then they added the transit to streets or lighthouse or something on the left-hand side. They added a tent area there with a bunch of decent loot, and then they added another tented area with a bunch of like military loot and guns and stuff, and that just completely changed the way players raid. Even adding the small little spot with Tagila in the underground, right? Like that
Yeah,
changed the
yeah.
way it was moving. So just it shows that small changes, updating the map, bringing things to more randomness, or at least giving players more options to spread out instead of being forced into one location, just drastically changes the way the raids are played, and it expands those raids out to lasting longer. I usually go to interchange, and old interchange, I would die relatively early on, or I would get in my fights early on. New interchange, I'm usually able to rotate, unless you get like one of the weird spawns right now. I'm able to rotate a little bit. I'm able to set up. I'm able to look for players. I'm able to loot around and then make a move inward, and then either start pushing towards shots or doing this out of the other. Like it's nice to have a few minutes in raid to just not be constantly on edge. What do I do? Where do I go? What's going? So it helps, and it shows. We've seen it. We've seen it in practice with interchange changes, right? We saw even a small map like that, just adding some POI, changing some stuff up, changing the flow of the map. It drastically changes the way players play that map. So shoreline, woods, streets, reserve potentially even could benefit from like some random spawns. I don't think that the bosses need
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
around on the
Every
reserve,
map.
but like, yeah, honestly, yeah, every map could benefit from random spawning. The only one I
Yeah.
wouldn't change personally I mean, honestly, I probably would. I'd probably change factory too.
Yeah,
I would
yeah, why
probably
not?
give every
You
map
know?
random spawns. If it changes the way that the players process and run the raids, I think it's a good thing. You got to keep it
Yeah.
fresh somehow, right?
Yeah, if you're not gonna make a new map, a new spawn with new POIs is good enough.
I agree. I agree.
Or if it's just like a every now and then you just throw a different version up. Like one week you run these spawns, next week you run these. Like even if you don't want to make it
That'd be
completely
cool.
random all the time, or even
Yeah,
if it's hard for them to do that, at least do it where there's like, two different versions,
sure. Yeah, rotate every
Because we
week,
know
every
they can
2
switch
weeks.
stuff.
Fuck, rotate every month
Yeah.
even.
Well, we know they can switch stuff around however they want. Like they can throw
Right.
bosses wherever they want. They can throw like different enemies, they can throw different
Loot,
loot,
they
like
could
they can do
throw,
that
yeah.
stuff however and whenever. So it's like this stuff is all possible.
Yeah, I don't think we're asking anything too crazy. It does sound like, drastic changes to the way Tarkov is. And while it would be drastic changes, they're easy changes. The things that could be
Yeah.
done
They're
that they've
easy
shown
changes
could be
and
done in a
popular.
hurry. Yeah, absolutely. We're not alone in this. I think the majority of the player base would be stoked to have random spawns and not
Yeah.
have to stress the early raid blues that we do now.
You'll have those, e-gamers that don't want a single thing to change and they want to show off every raid they do to their friends and act like they're the best gamer ever. Those guys will complain because they complain about every change.
Right.
But the majority of us who enjoy Tarkov for the randomness that it has and just the pure excitement of not knowing what's next, we
There
would we would
is
enjoy it.
there's a lot of value in that. I
Yeah.
honestly, before I had over optimized the game, and even I'm not efficient as efficient as I should be, but I have taken some notes on like ways to be better about certain stuff. Uh, I miss the days of just not realizing where everybody was spawning and not understanding how those players were moving. As miserable as it was to die and lose my shit and have to learn these lessons for the first time, second time, third time, there was something very, very special about that randomness, about just spawning in,
Yeah.
moving forward, not knowing who's to my right, if anybody's there, if anybody's on my left, not knowing where the spawns are, and just trying to make my way to places, trying to find things, trying to figure out where to go, what to do, and how to do it. But it's something that has needed to be done for a long, long time because players have been,
Yeah.
even well before I started abusing spawns, players have been doing that for so long. I mean, when the maps don't change, the spawns don't change, the loot pools don't change, it's really easy to just figure it all out and abuse that one mechanic of it. And it's just something as simple as it's the first thing we do in raid, load in. And you already have people knowing exactly where to push to get kills. That's just not a good look. And I mean,
Well,
obviously they
and it
know
might
that because this conversation's being had right now because they're making posts and making changes and doing things to fix these problems. Tarkov.Community brought it to light amongst all the other people that were ranting and raving about it too. So obviously these things are happening, but the way that they just did it is the big issue. We just need it to be a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, and it might sound stupid, but I would much rather die not knowing that someone was there rather than knowing that someone spawned there and they're just camping there waiting on me and I die to them anyways. Like,
Right.
I would
That
rather
feels
just
worse.
not know they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, much worse.
Thinking that they maybe moved in on me or maybe across the map, like got a good line and just happened to hit the shot, stuff like that. I'm okay with those deaths because that feels natural. That feels like it played out like it should have. I don't feel like I did anything immensely wrong to the point that I have to like start studying spawns and learning how to rotate into these fights. Because it just sucks. I'll be honest with you. Even with the amount of time I have in game, and as carefree as I am with my raids, like I don't care what my KD is. I don't care what my stats are. I don't care what I'm running. I don't care what I got. I just don't care. It's easy to keep my stash full. It's easy to get these raids done. I'll eventually get my tasking done. Like it just happens. And I hate dying off spawn. It is the worst feeling in the game. Not firing a single bullet,
Yeah.
not getting to know like how your gun performs, not getting to use your kit at all, just literally loading in raid, trying to walk forward and dying just to donate a kit is the worst. So yeah, I'm all for them switching these spawns up in a pretty drastic way. I think a drastic change is what's needed. I don't think we need to play around with like putting people just spreading out a little bit. I think we need like very bad scav showed in that image. I think that's exactly what we need is just random spawn points all the way across the map. And like you said, I don't care who gets to resort first. I don't care who gets a weather station first. I don't care who gets to those places, especially if the loot is reasonable all the way around. Every player gets a chance at finding something good.
I don't care.
Yeah. Every player gets a chance at finding something decent. Every player gets a chance to move around the raid and spend at least 5-10 minutes in there. I think that's a great thing. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Next raid, you might get that spawn. Like that's just how it should be.
Exactly how it should be. I think honestly though, I think that's everything for the week. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or go over?
No, I think we can talk about the core 3 stuff. It's people have figured it all out. Nikita's new game. Very very bad scav was doing a lot of it. Nice guy and the Sons of Soon, they figured it all out and it led to a countdown. So as of right now, we are sitting at 6 days, 12 hours, 18 minutes, and 44 seconds. So that means this time next week, it will just have actually hit 0. So next Talking Tarkov, we will let you know what happened.
Yeah, that's exciting. I did go through. I kept my promise, right, from last week. I told you guys I would do my best to figure this stuff out. And I made progress. I really did. I unlocked all this stuff. I unlocked all the I did all the puzzles behind all these. I got the first video unlocked. I got this image sent to me. Then I got this letter here sent to me. It covers some stuff about some testing. I've gotten some progress with Arana. I made some progress with the algorithm. I've got some new, the Galliman. Oh, we're not going to do that right now. Reset. I don't want to, whatever. So this is just a click-based game. You start protocol, wait, it'll go green, you attack, right? Easy peasy. But so there's just a lot of stuff that you can unlock and find. But I looked around after the fact, and I don't think I've solved nearly that many puzzles. I think there's still a lot cracked behind that. So yeah, if you want the scoop on it all, definitely go check out the Sons of Soon stuff. They got it all figured out. So, and like Adam said, it just led us to the countdown that we already had the website for. Maybe there was some other stuff too. I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to spoil it for yourselves. Go like Adam said, check out the Sons of Soon stuff. Check out what's his name?
Nice guy.
Nice guy.
Very bad scav.
No, probably very bad scav too at this point.
Yeah, all of them have been on it. All 3 of them.
Nice guy, very bad scav. Go check them out and get the information that way. I don't want to spoil anything in case anybody doesn't want it spoiled, but it is pretty cool. You get a little something.
I was gonna say one other thing that might kind of be tied to it is Tarkov Basement guy posted this little short.
Oh yeah.
And we don't know if it's tied to it, but it might be tied to it. So we'll let you see that.
Yeah. The reason we say it might be tied to it is part of the spoiler that we don't really want to spoil. But this is interesting. You can start to piece parts of it together, and then you'll probably want to go check out the very bad scav stuff or the nice guy stuff. So here's this short.
And this might not have anything to do with it, but this is kind of, uh, it it kind of is in line with everything, and the fact that Battlestate themselves reposted this is what leads me to thinking maybe it does tie in with some of that stuff. So we don't have any actual information on that. We're just taking guesses here. So, you know,
Yeah, this has some weird look to it. It looks futuristic. It looks sci-fi-ish. There's the Nikita Batman hat image right there. It's got a turntable on it. It literally spits out hot music. We don't know. We're not saying this weapon is tied to anything. We're just saying maybe there's like a
right.
tease in some way, shape, or form that kind of collaborates all this together.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just some goofy shit they cooked up. You know what I mean? That's entirely possible too. But yeah, this is a cool little weapon. It's a cool little short too. It's just funny. If it doesn't tie to anything, so be it. But it's just funny that
Yeah.
this short drops around the same time. A lot of the other stuff that's happening with Core and everything else is dropping. That's as far as I'll
Yeah.
take that.
BSG
So
themselves repost it. So it's like,
yeah, yeah.
did they just happen to, see it and thought that's cool? Possibly. Or is it planned? Possibly.
Well, Tarkov Basement Guy is one of the devs, so he
Yeah.
posted
I
it,
mean,
and then it got reposted by Battlestate. So maybe there's a
well,
connection.
he also posts stuff a lot though that they don't repost. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, maybe
That's
this
also
has
true.
more.
That's very true.
So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a wait and see thing, but it's definitely interesting. Definitely raises an eyebrow a little bit to me, especially knowing the spoiler stuff that we know. It kind of can start to make sense, and then
Yeah.
you look at all like the core.gg stuff and look at all the screenshots Nikita's posted and things like that. It just really starts to kind of make you wonder. It's sci-fi,
Screw it.
futuristic
I'm
kind of
telling them,
stuff. It
Prapor has
kind
a
of
time
fits,
machine and
dude.
he takes over the world. And yeah, I
We have
had
to
to
try to
tell
kill
him,
him with
dude.
this sound blaster.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's only part of the gun. It's a sound blasting fart blaster. So we have to find the
Yeah.
fart blaster and find out how to like put it all together, and then you're gonna be blasting like shitty fart music at people. It'll be interesting, guys. Just keep an eye out for it. It's coming to Tarkov.
Yeah. And Prapor also has changed his DNA to pine sap. So that's part of the issue. So we got
Pine
a lot
sap
to
from the
figure out.
north, right? Not just regular pine sap. It's
Yeah.
like Canadian
Yeah.
pine sap. So it's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
heavy
It's
heavy shit.
rugged stuff. It can handle all kinds of like
Crazy
cold
absorption rate. Like
temperatures and
penetrating
yeah.
Prapor is going to be damn near impossible with any of the ammo we have now. But that's why we need the fart blasting song maker. So we can get
But
through
we
that
won't give away
tree
much
sap.
more. We'll let them
No, I
figure
think
the
we
rest
stop
of it
there, dude.
out.
We can't keep spoiling things for them like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. It's
They need to
too
be on
much
their own
anyways.
figuring this stuff out. They kind of have to,
You're right.
put your best feet forward and try to clap your feet instead of your hands from now on. So
Yep.
that's what I do while I'm gaming. Sit down here, clap my feet. But yeah, I think that's it for the week. There's really not a lot going
Yep.
on this week in
No,
general.
there's not.
Kind of just hanging out, waiting to see what happens with this countdown timer and the core.gg stuff, trying to wait for this event to pop off. Okay, one last thing that I do want to mention. We are still waiting on the icebreaker, end of line type stuff that should be coming very, very soon. We don't know much else about it. What
No.
if the icebreaker rolls in and it's got all the ducks on it? This is how we're introduced to
Well,
the ducks. Icebreaker, duck off.
I don't know, but I doubt that happens. But
I do too.
in seriousness, though, it's like when everyone was first breaking down this Core 3 stuff, they thought it was the icebreaker stuff. So was that just coincidence or are they tied?
Well, I've been kind of wondering with some of the context clues that I've picked up looking through all the documents and everything on the os.core.gg site. There's mention of the blast, the big blast, all this different, like, referencing of this bomb type thing that happened. And we go to a location and then potentially we're exploring Earth again. I don't know. There's a lot of gray areas in it. But what I'm trying to get at is I was essentially wondering if potentially Tarkov happens, Russia 2028 happens, progression happens through whatever, and then like this is another step forward. Like, I don't know. With Nikita and
No, it
them and
could be.
BSG, I never rule anything out at all until it's like actually ruled out.
Well,
This could potentially be a continuation of a storyline, not necessarily like, oh, the guy from Tarkov is in the raids now on this place on Mars or something. You know what I mean? I'm saying that like potentially Terror Group went on from here and continued with their stuff, maybe turned into a sub company of a sub company and into another company and, you know, changed hands potentially. And the core guys that were doing all that maybe started this process. You know, I'm just saying there's a way they could tie it together that wouldn't be so abstract and bizarre that it didn't make sense. I feel like it could potentially tie into this somehow. Maybe not. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe that is a stretch.
Well, I will say after going through Nikita's art station last week, I am almost convinced that all of this ties together because he had a lot of this already done, like,
At the same
years ago.
time, years ago.
Yeah.
11
Yeah.
years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah, and this man had the Subject 18, or is it Subject 08? Whatever it is.
Yeah, Subject 8, I think.
Yeah, so he had that all together. He had all the Tarkov stuff together, a bunch of stuff already tied together. It would make enough sense to just continue the story from a time lapse. Like, oh, well, 200 years ago, Tarkov happened, which led Terror Group to this, which let Terror Group take over the world, essentially. They became this, this, and this. They launched us out into space. Now we're doing this. We all work for Terror Group type shit. You know, I could just say with some confidence that I could see it happening, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Not at all. Not at all. But yeah, it is interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Just keep your guys' eyes on that. And if you're not paying the most attention to it, not staying on top of it, we'll keep providing you with information. Anytime a spoiler comes up, we will probably suggest you guys go somewhere else. Maybe the week after we'll discuss that spoiler. But I don't want to ruin anything for upcoming games or anything like that. So
we should have a pretty big answer next week.
That is very true. We should have a pretty big answer next week. But genuinely, I don't want to spoil something that you guys aren't looking into for whatever reason. I don't want to take a game that you just found out about and potentially ruin a spoiler for you. And there is, this isn't as simple as just a spoiler either, right? Because it's like there's a whole mini game tied to a website with a countdown and all kinds of stuff to it. So I think it's worthwhile to go check it out. And if not, you know, here soon we will be talking about all of it. I'd say by next week we're going to be talking about what we're going to not spoil this week. So just keep an eye on it.
We will let you know ahead before. We won't just jump into it. Like we'll say we're going to talk about it. So that way, if you don't want to know, you can skip that part.
For sure. But yeah, you know, getting things spoiled for you just because you're listening to something that you thought was you enjoy listening to, and then all of a sudden, you know, game A is spoiled for you and lore connection B is spoiled for you. I've had that happen to me a time or two, just watching videos even. So it's like, I'd rather avoid it if possible. You know what I mean? If you're really interested in it, you know where to go look for it. You know to go look for it. And if you're not, you know, you don't really care if we spoil it or not. So, but yeah, that's everything for this week, right? I think we're good.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Just don't forget to click that bell icon so you never miss an upload. We'll catch you next week. See ya.